Earlier this week, Bungie put out a delay announcement for Shadow and Order. They mentioned they'll be rebranding the update. They also have a large focus on raid and dungeon content, reprising all the raid and dungeon gear to the tiered loot system. I can't help but draw parallels to Destiny 1's Age of Triumph update. In it, Bungie refreshed the loot of their legacy raid content and brought it up to scratch with gear released during Rise of Iron. Bungie are doing the same here, and I think a lot of people are underestimating the sheer scale of this update. Excluding raid and dungeon content that already has tiered gear, we have 10 dungeons and 9 raids that are getting refreshed. Now if you think about that, each of these will be getting refreshed armor sets with their own 2-piece and 4-piece set bonuses, alongside dungeons having at least 4 weapons each and raids having at least 6 weapons each. In total, that's over 100 weapons getting updated perk pools, and 19 armor sets getting upgraded to have set bonuses. For reference, we have 19 set bonuses in the game as of Renegades, so we're getting that number doubled by the time all the raid set bonuses are released. Now there is of course a catch. Not only do we have to wait almost 4 months for this update, but it does seem like the release of this content will be time gated. I think this is understandable. It is a lot of content to drop all at once, but how well it's received will ultimately come down to the cadence of these reprisals. If we got one a week, that's 19 weeks of content, and I think farming a loot pool's worth of items is definitely at least a week's worth of content, if not way more. The issue would come if these reprisals are trickled out at a very slow pace, especially considering this is something that 100% should have been happening since the release of Edge of Fate, and now they're having to course correct. I think one a week would be very good, and one every other week would be acceptable, but any longer of a wait, and I think the community would probably go mental. If we're waiting this long, the reprised loot should be frequent. Now we of course don't know if this is a thing yet, but one of the big draws to Age of Triumph was the cool armor ornaments that were released into the raids. If this happens with Destiny 2, I could absolutely see this event becoming a smash hit. I do hope we get some armor variants if this is in fact a Destiny 2 Age of Triumph update. I find myself looking at fan concepts, and these two on screen right now by Lily are really cool ideas for Pit of Heresy and Garden of Salvation, and I'd love to see armor like this added to their loot pools for the refresh. Another big opportunity they have here is that for Crota's End, King's Fall and Vault of Glass, they could reprise the remaining weapons from Destiny 1 that aren't in Destiny 2 yet, those being Light of the Abyss, Black Hammer and Hunger of Crota from Crow's End, Anguish of Dristan, Silence of Arn, and Ilulim's Frenzy from King's Fall, and Aphion's Epilogue, Praetorian Foil, and Praedyth's Timepiece, which could definitely be turned into a rocket pulse from Vault of Glass. I think having these extra weapons would be a really cool incentive for the crowd that isn't so fond of the idea of refarming their old weapons, since these are essentially brand new for Destiny 2 players. The old weapons being updated would essentially just be supplemental content on top of this additional loot chase. I think another huge factor of this update is going to be the Pantheon 2.0. It is rumoured that Pantheon will feature Sunset Raid encounters, and I could absolutely see Sunset Raid gear, like the Scourge, Leviathan and Crown weapons, being part of Pantheon's loot pool if this is in fact the case. Personally, I'm really excited at the prospect of getting a tier 5 threat level, or a tier 5 midnight coup. The question is, will this update be enough to move the needle and save the game? And honestly, I'm not sure. The poor launch of Edge of Fate and the frequent missteps with Ash and Iron have done a very good job of driving players away, and the radio silence on the future of the franchise hasn't done any favours either. This is communication we should have received weeks, if not months ago, and I suppose it is better late than never, but it still stings. Personally, I am excited about this update. Raid and dungeon content is Destiny's best content, and having a reason to go back and play 19 raids and dungeons is going to be fantastic in my opinion. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people unhappy with the prospect of regrinding old loot. Hey, at least dungeon keys might be worth it again, something I spoke at length about in one of my recent videos. I think the next big focus, once we have the raids and dungeons up to parity, should be making sure PvP is in a good spot and re-implementing Gambit to have a place in the core of the game again. I think modes like this are so important to help with long content droughts, and it kind of sucks that both of these modes are in pretty bad spots right now, with constant cheaters in PvP and Gambit being left to rot in the director, considering we're in a content drought for the next 3.5 months. At least we have Guardian games and Iron Banner to hold us over. Right guys? That's all for now guys. As we receive more info on this update, I'll be covering it on this channel, so make sure you stay tuned. I'm also going to be doing a community reaction to the update announcement, so if you have any opinions on it, let me know down below. Thank you all very much for watching, and goodbye.